Hey guys. If you hear any noise, it's raining right now. Um, but yeah. Um, I don't think it's been a while since I've done an episode where I'm just speaking by myself. I've done interviews back to back with a lot of artists, a lot of people. Just doing a lot of things, and I thought, I'll just take the time to just kind of, you know, talk just by myself and talk about, I guess, a topic that has been kind of also been a topic within like my friends, within my friend group and stuff like that. And I thought it would just be really interesting to speak on it because I was actually not too long ago reviewing one of my podcast episodes. I was actually listening to an older episode. It was I did this segment called Is It Just Teen Angst? And this was me basically speaking on like teen topics. And I started that segment when I was actually 16. I started my podcast when I was 16. And now I'm 20. So, it's like, wow, like time has really, flown, like gone by. And it's just interesting to see how my perspective has changed, throughout the years on like many topics. But also another thing too is just that when I was listening to that episode, and the episode I was listening to was about just like, I guess, dealing with, social media, toxic positivity, things like that. And it was just interesting to see how, till this day, I still relate to some of the things that I spoke about in that episode. Basically, saying how like I mentioned how basically I wasn't even like active on social media a lot. And I think it's interesting to see how to this day I treat my social media almost as a portfolio rather than honestly anything else. Like I'll post myself here and there, but mainly on my Instagram, especially my Instagram and my TikTok, like I really do treat my account as a portfolio. Like you'll see, like I just post most of the time just my artwork or promoting some of my businesses or things like that. So that's how I kind of just take social media seriously, just trying to put myself out there with like my work and stuff. And I have seen that like there's been a lot of positives doing that because I have gotten opportunities, just putting my work out there, and people reaching out to me saying, hey, like, would you be down to do this, would you want to do that, stuff like that. So I think that's really important and everything. And just again creating a portfolio yourself, not even on social media but also behind the scenes as well, like creating a website or doing things like that. So I've been able to build up a lot of experience since I was 16 to now, and it's really a blessing. It's really great to see how far I've come, when it comes to my career. But I guess when it comes to, I guess, self-esteem and like body stuff and whatnot, because I also did bring up those things in that episode. Of course, 16 me had brought up how there was a big difference from, how I was in the ninth grade and then how I was in the 10th grade. In the ninth grade, of course, I brought up how I was, I think I was becoming a little bit more confident. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, a girl was just, she was getting her first sewing, okay? She was starting to experiment with wigs, okay? So when I have got my first, I think it was like a closure, I was feeling myself. I was like, okay, like, I can get used to this. I don't really wear wigs or closures as much, not because I don't want to, but it's because like my natural hair has been growing a little bit. So it's like I want to try to like keep up with my natural hair a lot, but I do love sew-ins. I do fuck with sew-ins. So yeah, so like I remember when I got my first sew-in, I was like, okay, like a bitch is feeling herself, and I was like, experimenting with wigs and whatnot, and that boosted my confidence up like a little bit more, not gonna lie. And but also another thing too was also my clothing choices. Of course, I was starting to show a little bit more skin. I mean, like, I guess, again, transitioning from middle school to now high school, it's like, you're becoming this your own person. You're trying to find, who you are, what's your identity, you being an individual, becoming more independent on some things. So yeah, I mean, like, I was like, a girl was like, she was showing a little bit of skin, but but it became kind of conflicted, and like in the middle of ninth grade, I will say, before going into 2020, because that year of course was like COVID, so like going to quarantine and whatnot. I remember I just felt pressure to like keep up with my appearance during that time because it felt like I was getting more attention and more compliments with my parents. But I felt like, and I'm not gonna lie, like, as much as I kind of liked ninth grade because, like, the air was so much different. Ooh, especially during the winter time, No Idea was playing. TikTok was okay. Like, it was a good time. But 2019 was a good time. And the bling aesthetic, like, I loved that. The bling aesthetic was nice. But I also made a lot of edits through the bling aesthetic, so it's kind of funny. But yeah, no, but I just think that, I don't know. It's just kind of crazy because as soon as I started, feeling depressed, and I even mentioned this, in my in that episode, I was starting to experience depression. I, felt like I couldn't keep up with my parents anymore, and then I just felt like it made me even more depressed because I felt like nobody was really, paying attention to me anymore. People were just kind of focusing more so on my appearance rather than like how I'm feeling emotionally, what I'm going through emotionally. And that's what it just kind of felt like. I wasn't really keeping up with my hair. Like, my leave out was becoming a leave out, okay? Like, it was becoming a leave out. Like, my hair was like, it looked like two different textures, okay? So it was getting bad. It was getting bad. But yeah, no, I mean, I was experiencing depression at that time, and I experienced something really bad at that time too at school. So it was just like there was some trauma building up, but either way, I mean, like, going into quarantine did also kind of help me find myself a little bit more. And as much as it was like like so draining staying inside all the time, in a way it was also a bit comforting because I was again beginning to learn a little bit more about myself and like just what I went through, kind of like that. The second half of ninth grade was just me kind of reflecting who I was and honestly what I went through, and now just like, okay, like, I need to get my shit together. Even though like I'm only 14 at the time, like, what type of shit do I need together other than like school? But like, I was really just like, okay, like, let me just try to get my shit together and things like that. So, fast forward a little bit to, sophomore year, of course, quarantine. That's when again, I was just really reflecting, but it felt like a very comforting time because again, like, I had my friends, and whatnot, and that's when I started discovering, a little bit of my talents and like my abilities. During that time, I was, starting to produce music, I was getting into graphic design, like visual design, so it was a really fun time for me to express myself creatively during quarantine. But now transitioning into junior year and I was getting out of quarantine, and that's when like I had dyed my hair, and it's not the same color that my hair color is right now. Like, it was a bit more of like a, like, I feel like people think my hair looks ginger, like it looks orange, but I swear it's not. It's like, it's a honey brown, like it's a honey blonde, and then like it's just bleach at the front, but like I think like the bleach kind of made it look orangey. So, but like if I show photos of it, it's just like a brown and it's like it's bleach at the front. So yeah, but basically I felt as though, like, junior year was also a very tough time too. Just like, damn, like, was high school just always so tough? But I feel like also high school helped me a lot with my career too, because I've always kept up a momentum throughout, my years at high school. So, it just helped me build up experience. But, like, I think just dealing with a lot of, like, of course, emotional distractions and whatnot. Yeah. But you might be wondering, why am I rambling about all of this? What does this relate to the topic we're going to be talking about? Exactly. And this is why I came to listen. Basically, we're going to talk about love, relationships. Interesting, right? So I'm not in a relationship right now. I'm currently single. But I will say I do feel like maybe love is in the air a little bit, but I'm not bothered by it, like, it's not to say like I don't want to catch it. But like, I think maybe like, I don't know, because like I'm on and off social media a lot. So it's like, there's a lot of people who are private about their relationship. So not everybody posts about, oh, if they have a girlfriend or they have a boyfriend or whatnot, like everybody's private, which is rightfully their choice, like, But with me, it's like, I've been like questioning like if I'm putting career over love lately, and I know that might sound a little like, oh, like, what makes you think like that, of course. I don't know. It's like, not to say like I don't want to get into a relationship or whatnot, because if I do, like, hey, like, cool, like, we ball, lit. But at the same time, it's like I've been focusing on so many things. Like, if I could tell you, like, if my 16-year-old self could see, her 20-year-old self, she would be shocked and very proud, because it's like, again, like, she was working so much to see like, her podcast had skyrocketed a little bit. She's interviewing people that she thought she would never interview, and she's doing other things, within the field of journalism as well. So it's like, yeah, it's things like that, where it's just like, like, I'm doing this out of the love for myself, like, when it comes to my career, because I'm doing things that I wanted to do when I was like 6 years old. Everything I said I wanted to do as a kid, it's becoming true a little bit. It's going to fruition. So it's like, I'm maybe that's what I'm kind of focusing on right now, rather than love. And it's not to like diss anybody or like show anybody, who's in a relationship right now, and to say like, oh, if you're in a relationship right now, you're not focusing on your career, you're just focusing on that other person, the other side. Like, no, it takes a balance. And I've seen that before, and I've heard other people's stories, especially people closest to me, that it's hard to find a balance in between, doing things that you have to do and then also staying committed to somebody else. Like, it's like almost like, I don't know, where you're taking care of somebody else, or you're taking care of somebody's needs in a relationship. So it's like, that's what also comes to question, like, like, are you ready for a relationship right now? Because like, you have to stay committed to another person. So it's like, almost, it's like, right now I will say I am committed to my career, I am committed to school, I am committed to myself. Like, self-love is the best love. But also, I am down to, like, of course, like, be affectionate with anybody else. Like, I am not against that. Yeah, like, that's pretty much it. But at the same time, it's like, back on the whole career thing, like, again, not to say that because, if you're in a relationship that, you're not focusing on your career, like, you're not doing shit. Like, no, like, again, like, it's hard to, to find that balance. There's some people who are focusing on their careers but also in a relationship at the same time. But what, and this is what I was going to mention, but also saying, I don't know, because I've been told before that I might need somebody who is also ambitious like me, because if I'm not with somebody who's not as ambitious as me, then it's like, it becomes a bit conflicting, because it's like, I'm focusing on my own goals and I love you at the same time, but it's also the same time, what are you focusing on as well? Like, not to call my future partner a bum or anything, like, no, but it's just like, what are you focusing on too? Like, do you have goals as well? Like, are you working on a career right now? Like, what are you doing? It's just like those type of things where it's just like, like, I kind of need somebody who is ambitious as me, and who is, very goal orientated as me as well, because that's basically me. I find a lot of confidence, most of my confidence derives from my career. Most of my confidence just does come from, the things I do in work and the type of effort I do into my work and stuff. So, that's what I'm saying. So it's like, when you do get in a relationship, it's like, what type of person are you looking for? Like, how's that person gonna match, I guess, your vibe or your energy, into like saying like, like, if I'm working, then he's also working too. But also at the same time, we're finding a balance to also like, love each other, and also a balance to like, still check up on each other, like, like, hey, how are you? And do still do some lovey-dovey shit, what I mean? Yeah, but also at the same time, even before getting into a relationship, like I said, before getting ready, it's not even career stuff. It's also, like, your identity. One thing I have been told is that, sometimes, relationships aren't always as perfect as they seem on the outside, so that's why it's like, again, like, you can't romanticize every relationship you see. You can't romanticize, like, you can't be like, oh, relationship goals, I want to be like that, but it's like, can't really romanticize everything. I have seen some cute couple videos and whatnot. Like, I remember I saw this TikTok earlier where this really old couple, oh my god, old people, but this really old couple, this old man, he had like, I think, like, pulled a chair for his like wife, and like, was just trying to like for her to sit down, and like he was taking a picture of her. It was just like, oh my god. And then somebody in the comments was like, made this love attack me, and I was like, yes, but again, like, again, like, just with love, it is really a commitment. I'm beginning to realize that a little bit more, because then there's also a difference between like, do you actually want to date, or do you like the idea of dating or being in a relationship, you know? It's those type of things as well. I know, like, we're young. I don't know how old you are listening to this, but, you know, if you're like me, who's 20, in that 20 age range, you know, we're young, you know? But it's also definitely your choice if you want to stick with if you see somebody who you think you can stick with for you know, your entire life, that's okay too. But if you feel like, you know, like, you want to explore other people, that's okay too, you know, as long as, you know, you're not hurting anyone in the process, that's okay. But, you know, it just made me realize again, like, then it's like, you know, okay, like, having fun and whatnot, but then it's also like you want to be serious and stuff, so it's like, you know, but I don't know. Yeah. But like I said, you know, I'm just kind of focusing on my career, but if I do get into a relationship, I don't mind it. Again, like, I'm cool with it, you know. It's just, I think, just trying to find that balance and that, you know, trying to stay committed, because it's like, again, you have to learn the difference between you're dating the idea of somebody than actually dating that person, you know, like, do you like the idea of him or her or they, you know, what's up, you know? So yeah, it's those type of things, you know, just wanted to bring up a little bit, before I go to sleep, you know, just having those, like, thoughts, but yeah, you know. And I think another thing to bring up, you know, one thing, other than, like, relationships aren't always as it seems on the outside, you know, another thing too is, like, you know, when people do get into relationships, you also have to ask yourself, am I fully healed, you know, before I date this person? Because if I'm not healed, am I just bringing more problems into the relationship, more unhealed, you know, unresolved trauma into a relationship where a person they, you know, may not be ready for? And then also at the same time, it's like, are you dating this person, or is it a trauma bond? You know, some things you want to think about, and, you know, maybe try to avoid before getting into a relationship, because it's those type of things that kind of make you question when you're talking to somebody. It's like, okay, are you talking to someone based off, you know, attraction or lust, or are you talking to this person because you actually see yourself being with them? You know, so yeah, I mean, yeah, well, that's my little rant about love. Again, I'm saying love is in the air right now, but it's like the fall time, winter time. I don't know if things will change up in the springtime. Not saying this as a downfall for anyone's relationship. I'm just noticing that. But, you know, like, again, like, there's like 8 billion people here, and, you know, balance are you'll find somebody. Whoever's listening to this, you'll find somebody. Even though you don't believe it, somebody will come to you. And you have the, you know, right to decide, you know, if you want to be with them or not. Yeah. So yeah. Good night. Peace.